She thought she was being adopted, but she was being sold. Sold into a fake marriage with a man who hid his face behind silence, darkness, and a secret so powerful that when she discovered it, her entire life changed forever. This is the untold story of an orphan who lost everything, only to gain more than she ever imagined. If you loved this story, subscribe now. Your support inspires more emotional and powerful stories. Allah had always believed that the world forgot her the day her parents died. The orphanage where she grew up was cold, unforgiving, and filled with children who had learned to survive by hiding their emotions. Allah, however, held on to hope like a stubborn flame that refused to die. She dreamed of a family, of love, of a life outside the rusted iron gates. But fate had other ideas, darker ones. At 17, Allah was summoned to the administrator's office. The woman behind the desk, with a smile that never reached her eyes, told Allah she had been chosen by a family for adoption. Overwhelmed with joy, Allah packed what little she had into a small cloth bag. She imagined warm meals, a soft bed, a mother's embrace. Instead, she was taken to a remote mansion where everything smelled of secrets, money, and fear. Waiting for her at the gate was an elderly man who introduced himself as Mr. Rahim. The way he looked at her didn't feel fatherly. It felt transactional. Allah's uneasiness grew when she was led inside and handed a red dress, embroidered with gold. Put it on, the maid said quietly. The ceremony starts soon. Ceremony? What ceremony? Allah asked, her voice trembling. But no one answered her. Minutes later, Allah found herself standing in a dimly lit hall, facing a young man whose face remained hidden behind a lowered hood. There were no guests, no family, just a lawyer, Mr. Rahim, and a few servants. The truth hit her like a blow. This wasn't an adoption. It was a marriage, a fake marriage, a transaction she had been sold into. She tried to run, but the doors were locked. She tried to scream, but no one listened. By the time the papers were signed, Allah was legally married to a stranger whose name she barely knew, Zayden. He didn't speak to her. He didn't lift his hood. He simply turned and walked away, leaving her alone in a life she never wanted. The first days were suffocating. The mansion was silent, cold, and filled with rules. She was not allowed to leave her room at night. She was not allowed to enter the West Wing. And she was absolutely forbidden from asking questions about her husband. Still, Allah was observant. She noticed that the staff respected Zayden but feared something about him. She heard whispers, stories of a curse, an illness, a tragedy, but no one dared explain. One night, unable to sleep, Allah wandered into the West Wing. She followed the sound of soft music, a piano, elegant yet sorrowful. When she peeked inside the room, she saw Zayden for the first time without his hood. The sight stole her breath. His face was beautiful, striking even, but his eyes were filled with a deep loneliness, a loneliness that mirrored her own. Before she could step back, the floor creaked and he looked up, startled. For a moment their eyes met, and something inside Allah shifted. He wasn't a monster. He wasn't dangerous. He was broken. He stood quickly, pulling the hood over his head again. "You're not supposed to be here," he said softly, his voice surprisingly gentle. "I'm sorry," Allah whispered. "I didn't mean to intrude." She turned to leave, but Zayden stopped her with a single word. "Wait." That night changed everything. Zayden began to talk to her carefully at first, then gradually with more warmth. He told her about his love for music, his fear of crowds, his life of isolation in the mansion. But he always avoided discussing why their marriage happened or what he was hiding. And every time Allah asked, the walls in his eyes returned. Days turned into weeks, and Allah found herself drawn to him despite the circumstances. She saw the way his hands trembled when he tried to play the piano, how he winced at flashes of light, how he avoided mirrors. Something wasn't right. Something was hurting him. Something he believed she wouldn't accept. One stormy night, everything changed. Allah woke to shouting downstairs. Mr. Rahim had returned, furious about something. She heard fragments of their conversation. She deserves to know. It's too dangerous. He's not stable. Allah rushed downstairs just as Zayden slammed his fist into the table, shaking. His hood slipped off, revealing eyes filled with tears. "Tell me the truth," Allah demanded, her voice firm despite her fear. Zayden froze. The servant stepped back. Mr. Rahim sighed, defeated. And the truth came out. Zayden wasn't sick. He wasn't cursed. He was the secret heir of a massive empire, one the world thought had died years ago in a tragic accident. But he hadn't died. He had survived. Barely. The accident had left him with severe trauma, panic attacks, and hypersensitivity to light. To protect him, his family faked his death. But after his parents passed away, his uncle Mr. Rahim wanted control of the empire. And for Zayden to legally inherit it, he needed a wife, a marriage, a witness, someone with no TIs, no voice, no power to interfere. Someone like Allah. He had bought her silence. By buying her life, Allah felt the floor sway beneath her. So I was just a tool? Zayden fell to his knees, shaking his head desperately. No, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know they forced you. I thought you agreed. I thought you needed a home. Tears filled Isla's eyes. Everything hurt. Her voice cracked when she whispered, "Did you want to marry me?" Zayden looked up at her with raw emotion. "I wanted someone who wouldn't fear me, someone who might understand me. But I never wanted to hurt you." She expected anger. She expected fear. But all she felt was a strange aching tenderness. In that moment she realized he was as much a prisoner as she was. Slowly, Allah knelt before him and took his shaking hands in hers. "Then let us fix this together," she said. For the first time, Zayden let the hood fall completely. He allowed her to see him, scars and all. And for the first time, he believed he wasn't alone. Together, they confronted Mr. Rahim, exposed his manipulation, and forced him out of Zayden's life. Allah stood by Zayden during his recovery, helping him step outside for the first time in years, helping him face the world, helping him reclaim his inheritance. And with each battle they fought side by side, their fake marriage slowly became real. One morning, under the soft glow of dawn, Zayden held her hands and whispered, "I want to marry you again." This time by choice. Allah smiled through tears. "Then this time, let me say yes." And she did. The girl who was sold into a fake marriage became the woman who found a love that rebuilt her entire world. In the end, Allah realized that her life had never been defined by the cruelty she endured, but by the strength she carried within herself. She entered that mansion as a girl who had been sold, betrayed, and silenced, yet she rose from it as a woman who discovered her own worth. Zayden, too, was transformed. The man who hid behind shadows, burdened by past trauma and the weight of an empire he never wanted, finally found someone who saw him not as a broken heir, but as a human being deserving of love and healing. Together they rebuilt their lives piece by fragile piece. Allah stood with him through every panic attack, every legal battle, every step toward reclaiming his identity. Zayden supported her as she healed from the pain of abandonment, showing her what it meant to be chosen, not bought, not used, but truly chosen. Their marriage, once forged in lies, became the foundation of something real and unshakable. Allah discovered that fate had not sold her into misery. It had pushed her toward a destiny far greater than she ever imagined. And the girl who once prayed for a family finally found a home in the heart of the man who needed her just as much as she needed him.